All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick Merkel with Oracle Applications Users Group. Welcome to today's session of how to improve your chances of being selected to speak at Collaborate 16. Before we get started, I would like to go over a couple housekeeping items. Everyone will be on mute throughout the presentation. If you have questions, you can type them into the Q&A box in your control panel or raise your hand icon and I will unmute you. We are recording this session and will be available online shortly. I would now like to introduce our presenters. First, we have Melissa Sider, our conference chair. Go ahead, Melissa.
Thanks, Patrick. I think we have an introduction slide a little bit later down, but I will go ahead and allow folks to introduce themselves at this point. Again, I'm Melissa Sider. Thank you all for joining us today. I am the Collaborate 16 conference chair, I'm very pleased to have with me today a group of people that I respect and admire tremendously, Kaberi Nyack and Elisa Johnson, who are our Collaborate 16 agenda co-chairs, and Karen Brownfield, who is the program director for our strategic programs for Collaborate 16. So welcome, and I think these slides, you'll get to hear a little bit more from each of them.
Wonderful, thank you. So we'll go ahead and do a quick overview of our agenda for today's session. So we'll cover a couple items. We will do our introductions and credentials, why are they qualified to speak on this topic, as well as discuss the conference selection process, some tips and tricks for the paper selection, and then we will open it up for panel discussion and for question and answers. All right, go ahead and get started with our introductions and credentials. So Melissa, do you want to give a little bit more information of your background and we can go through the rest of the panel?
Sure. So again, thanks for joining. This is Melissa. I've been involved with the OAUG in one shape or form for about the past 13 years. I've played a variety of roles in the organization, including on the Education Committee, Meetings and Conferences Committee, as well as the Agenda Chair myself for a number of years, co-agenda chair for several years with Kaberi, and then I was the conference chair for 2015 as well as the conference chair for this year. So I've been around to a few conferences. My background is in adult learning and training and development. And in that role, we're continuously educating people, and I like to think of myself as someone who, you know, training isn't just what I do, it's what I am. And so this was a very natural fit. Talking to people about speaking at conferences is a very passionate thing for me, and I really look forward to having a lot of new presenters this year, and we're going to help you figure out you know, just how to go about doing that process so that we can hear your voice. I also like to introduce Elisa. You want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. I'm serving with Kaberi as the co-agenda chair for Collaborate 16. I really actually got my start in OAUG volunteerism by presenting at regional user groups and at Collaborate, and so really enjoy doing that. That's one of the most fun parts of my job. I've served 6 years on the OAUG Board of Directors. I was president of the board last year, and so I really am dedicated to the mission of education that the OAUG has, and really am always encouraging. Everybody has a story to tell in the EBS space, and so really look to encourage everyone to submit and get involved in that part of the process.
Excellent. Thank you for being here today. Kaberi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep. Thank you, Melissa and Alyssa. Hi, everyone. My name is Kaberi Nyack. Thanks for joining us today for this informative webinar, and we hope you can take back some information that will help you and also encourage you to submit paper presentations for Collaborate 2016 conference and beyond. Your contribution is highly appreciated, and I would welcome each and every one of you to ask more questions, especially if you have never submitted presentations to the Collaborate conferences. Now, in terms of my background, I worked for MITRE Corporation for over 15 years as a lead Oracle Applications DBA. I am an Oracle ACE, and I also support Oracle Applications and Oracle PeopleSoft since 1996. I've participated and presented at many Collaborate conferences, OUG Connection Points, IOUC Summit at Oracle, and Open World conferences. On top of it, I'm a OAUG user member since 1999 and presented at different conferences, so have some background to share, giving some tips for people who have never submitted presentations or want some extra encouragement. I'm also a past OAUG Board of Directors, served on many committees like OAUG Education Committee, International Committee, Support Council, Technology, GeoSig Committee, just to name a few, in different roles as volunteers over many, many years. Currently, I am OAUG's 2016 Education Committee co-chair and also the 2016 Collaborate Conference Agenda co-chair along with Alyssa Johnson. As you can see, I have also served as Collaborate Conference Agenda Chair for the last 4 years in a row. With that, I'll pass it on to Karen. You want to?
Okay, I'm Karen Brownfield, and it was said earlier, this year my role is in charge of some of the special programs that we do at Collaborate. This is my 18th year in the OAUG Board of Directors. I was president in '98. I've been agenda chair. I was conference chair in the '90s of one of our international conferences. I've, like Kabiri, served on many, many committees, currently on the Education Committee. I started attending OAUG conferences in 1991 and found that the benefit of listening to other people share their experiences and the hints and tricks and how to get better functionality or how to fix issues, how to do setups, or just how to their experiences have saved me countless hours working when I was an end user, and even now as a consultant. I love going to presentations and learning innovative ways that people are using the applications. So I am a very strong believer in the OAUG conferences since I've been doing this for almost 25 years. And we're always looking for strong papers, new ideas, how you made your applications better. And so this is why we're here.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kabiri and Karen, for sharing your credentials. And I think it's very clear from listening to this group, we have a wealth of experience, not just in presenting ourselves, but in paper selection and the entire process of shaping and forming the way that our conferences are ultimately conducted. So, Patrick, I'm going to turn it back over to you to talk a little bit about the paper selection process.
Wonderful. Thanks, Melissa. So we'll go ahead and go into the paper selection process. So as we created a flow chart to help everyone understand how our selection process at OAUG is. First, we work with a strategic education council to finalize our tracks and our product lines and industries that are presented. And from those tracks and product lines and industries, we create a wish list. If you have not been to the website yet, would highly recommend you do, as we do have a wish list of different papers that we're looking for, different topics that we would encourage you to submit for, and specifically those that we are interested in seeing. From that wish list, the call will open and by the OAUG staff. During that time, you can submit your presentations. And this year's, the call is going to close on November 6th on Friday, November 6th. And then from there, after the close ends, we will do a voting process that we get a bunch of experts and knowledge users and to vote on those selections on the papers. And then,
Patrick, can I
go ahead.
make one
Yes,
comment?
please do.
Just wanted to let everyone know that we are opening up the voting process to any member that is interested in doing that, and so you should have received an email. The deadline for sign-up on that is September 25th, so encourage you all to get out there and register yourself to be part of that voting process.
Thank you, Elisa. So as Elisa mentioned, we are in the solicitation for the voters. So if you are interested, please reach out if you did not receive that email. Once the call for papers has ended, we will go right into our track authentication, where we will actually make sure that all of our tracks are correct and in line with everything. From there, we will go into deliver all of our voter credentials. So those that are going to participate in voting will have that and know the timeline. We will then go right into our voting, which will open on November 9th for all the voters. And from there, working with all of our volunteers and our agenda chairs, Kaberi and Elisa, they'll work to build out our rooms and our schedule. And that usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks to ensure that we have all of the selections, all the speaker notifications are ready to go. And that will be about end of November into the beginning of December of 2015. Getting into December, into January, we will finalize our agenda, work with all of our speakers, send out notifications of our acceptances and declines. From there, getting into January into 2016, we get into our compliance agreements and are finalizing our schedule. And getting into mid-spring, we will submit those accepted presenters will submit their presentation and white paper, and we will go from there. And then getting into 6 weeks to 8 weeks, about March, April time, we then start delivering our registration codes to our accepted presenters, ramping up, doing all of the prep work prior to it on site. And then April 10th through the 14th, we deliver presentations in Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay. That's the general overview of our paper selection process. During this time, we have a lot of volunteers working with Melissa Sider, Kaberi, Elisa, all of our panelists on here to ensure that we are meeting all of our deadlines.
All right, thanks, Patrick. And I'd just like to add here that the reason that we go over this process on this call is because we do have a lot of questions, and we want to try to take the mystery out of the selection process. It's not a secret panel. It's really voted on by members, and those votes are considered very, very seriously as we do our agenda builds. So we want to remove all the mystery from the process. You put in papers, they're voted on. The teams of experts from our GEO and SIG communities and our education committee then really work based on those votes to slot papers that are going to be of the most interest and are the most highly rated from those that are submitted. So we just want to make sure that this process is very clear and very transparent to all of our members. And so therefore we developed this flow chart as a way to really be able to easily communicate to people exactly what that process is. There's no, I know so-and-so, so I'm going to get a paper selected at Collaborate. That's not how it works. It's all very, process-driven and based on the numbers and the votes.
Wonderful, thank you. And new for this, for 2016, we have implemented a new policy in regards to our white papers, and would like to have Karen Brownfield, if you're available, to just talk briefly on that, to talk about how that is now restructured.
Yes, we are definitely looking to encourage people that use the applications on a day-to-day basis, i.e. those that belong in our user class of members, to submit papers. And so because your expertise is not necessarily in writing PhD dissertations, but more in how to use it, what we've done this year is stated that for the user members, if you will submit your slides with what's typically called speaker notes, i.e. if the slide isn't completely self-explanatory, just add some additional paragraph or bullet points in the notes section of your slides, and then when you submit it to OAUG and you PDF it, please PDF it as slides with notes, so that and what we'll do then is alleviate from you the need to actually write a white paper. Now, if you're in our associate member class, then you still have to submit a paper along with your slides. So we're trying to make it easier for the people that use the applications on a day-to-day basis to come and tell us how you make this better.
Wonderful. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate it. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and move forward with our tips and tricks. And I believe, Kaberi, you'll speak to some of that?
Yep. Thanks, Patrick. As we can see, I mean, we would like to provide you some tips and tricks for success. We do get a lot of questions like, how can my paper be selected? What can I do if I'm the first-time speaker or presenter that my paper will be selected? Now, it's not a rocket science. We wanted to just give you some ideas that we think from our experiences over many years, what works better. So always start with a solid idea rather than, too narrow. You just want to have a solid idea that is hot for this year, a broader appeal. Use the wish list when available, because wish list is created based on discussions and feedback from everybody about what are the hot topics for this 2016 Collaborate Conference. So if you pick one of those topics and make it a solid idea, it definitely would be good to have a better chance on your paper getting selected. Whenever needed, seek input and guidance from peers. That always helps. I mean, it doesn't have to be one person or one group. You can always have more, help and guidance from the peers. The second item, we would definitely like you to submit early as possible, because that will give you enough chance to make your topic and your paper much more solid, having feedback from others and even yourself reviewing rather than doing it the last day of the submission. So submit early, submit often. Different topics, you can submit on different topics. Another tip is create a catchy and descriptive title, because that sometimes catches the eyes. When you submit for your abstract, it's the title that makes it stand out. So obviously, if you have a catchy descriptive title, that will help. Another suggestion, grammar counts. Be sure to proofread. I mean, if there is a grammatical mistakes, obviously that paper will not have as much of a value when the whole process of voting, which everybody else is doing, and so keep this in mind. Again, another tieback for always try to co-present with others. Give users the top billing, make them the primary presenters, and help them to get forward and be able to present. So these are just few of the tips and tricks we think will help people who have never submitted presentations or have submitted but not got selected and want to get some feedback. What can I do to improve? And these would be the few options that I would suggest. Melissa, Elisa, Karen, anybody wants to add anything to the tips and tricks?
I think one thing for me is that you have the option to put up to 5 objectives in when you're filling out for the title, abstract, and then objectives. Please put at least 3 objectives. Any less than that, it's going to the perception is that you don't have a very well thought out topic and goals that you're trying to accomplish within the presentation. So please put at least 3 objectives when you're completing the presentation submission.
That's a great suggestion, Elisa. One of the things that I really like to stress about submitting early is that you may or may not be aware, we receive about 1,200 papers submitted for the conference. So you can imagine that sorting through 1,200 papers to make sure that they're each being effectively and appropriately considered by both voters and the selection team is a little bit of a daunting task. So if you submit early in the life cycle, the chances that someone's going to review your paper and its submission and ensure that it's in the right track to make sure it's considered by the correct people are going to dramatically increase. If you submit your paper on November 5th, there's going to be less opportunity and less time, quite frankly, for our team to make sure that you've submitted it into the right track. So submitting it early really does help to ensure that your paper is being considered the most seriously. And I think, what Kaberi was getting at with the final bullet there, if you are a associate member of OAUG, we do encourage you to submit, but we'd love it if you could bring your user to the table with you. Give your user top billing, put them in a primary presenter role, and present with them. There's been a real focus and a real ask from the user population over the last few years to really put the users back into the users group. And we want to, really try to provide more opportunities for users to talk to each other and to share their stories.
And to add to Melissa, that being said, if you're writing your abstract, the people that are voting don't see the name of the person submitting, nor do they see the company. That being said, don't put your company name and don't put your personal name into the abstract. It tends to cause people to vote against you just because you did that one little thing, especially if you're an associate member. You need to feature what you're going to tell your audience in your abstract. What problem did you solve? What are you teaching? What success stories are you telling? Not who am I as the presenter or who my company is. It really is not looked favorably on by the people doing the voting.
That's a great point. And I don't know if anybody's had a chance to see their OAUG e-news that came out in the past week or so. The president of OAUG this year, Melissa English, wrote an article about the first time she submitted a paper as a user to the Collaborate conference. And it's just really a great story because, she really, says I was very unsure about it, but then once I ended up doing it, I really enjoyed the experience, and she had something like 400 people at her very first presentation. So we don't want to scare anybody off with that story, but don't underestimate or discount the fact that what you have to say might be of real interest to a lot of people out there.
Melissa, those are excellent points. Everybody, Elisa, Karen, everybody brought in a lot of good tips and tricks for success.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kaberi. Thank you to our panelists for the tips and tricks for success. At this time, we would like to go ahead and open it up to our full panel discussion. So if you have questions or want to ask our panel any advice or questions, you can type them into the questions panel in your control panel, or you can raise your hand. So we'd like to open it up at this time. It can be any question regarding the submission process or presenting at Collaborate 16.
I have a question, Patrick. I'll get the process started. What if someone has a thought or an idea and it's just kind of taking shape in their head? Is there anybody at the OAUG or on the team that they can talk to help kind of flesh out or feel out those ideas?
Sure. That's a great question, Melissa. You can definitely reach out to Patrick Merkel, the OAUG Education Manager, and at speakerprograms@oaug.org, and he is happy to help answer any questions and help facilitate getting it to the right people that need it or that can help. Again, it's Patrick Merkel at speakerprograms@oaug.org. So thank you, Melissa. All right, so we do have a few questions that have come in. First question was regarding the September 25th deadline. The September 25th deadline is to register and sign up as a voter to vote and review those proposals that have come in. So if you have not received that, please feel free to reach out to Patrick Merkel, and he'll happy to send that email along as well. But that is for the September 25th deadline. All right, the next question is, are there limits for each category, and what are they? Melissa, anybody have any thoughts on that?
What do they mean by category?
Vince, if you're able to expand on that, we'd appreciate that.
Well, actually, I could probably address the couple of facets to that. So from a submission perspective, no, there are no limits. You can submit as many papers in a category as you can think up. What we do ask you to refrain from doing is submitting the same paper 4 or 5 times with slightly altered titles and abstracts. If you have, distinct, unique ideas for 8 different papers in the area of Web Center, for example, I would encourage you to submit all 8. We pretty much only select maybe 1 in 4 papers that are submitted. So if you're submitting just 1 paper idea, your chances at being selected are 1 in 4. If you submit 4 papers, you have a much better chance of being selected. Now, from the selection perspective, there are some rules regarding how many papers can be presented by a single individual or by a company within a track. And so at the selection time, those limitations would be applied. But during the proposal time, during the call for papers, there is not a limit to how many you can submit.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. All right, so the next question, which I believe you may have answered, is there a limit on how many papers can be submitted?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Great. All right, so we'll go ahead and go to the next one. Let's see. Sorry about this. If the topic is not on the wish list, should I still submit it?
Absolutely. Yeah, if you've got an idea and it's something you think would be of interest to other users, by all means, we encourage you to submit it. You may think of something that that the rest of the team hasn't thought of before, and we love that.
Yep, I think, to add to Melissa, sometimes from user or client perspective, you can try to do something which is not thought of as a huge topic from the wish list standpoint, but it's something that you encountered and you want to share your experience with others who might be on that path down the road. So it will be a helpful information share for everybody.
Wonderful, thank you. Our next question, if submitting early enough and it is reviewed with the reviewers, give feedback if more information is needed.
So we don't do that in terms of, because again, the volume of papers that we get, you know, since we have 1,200, you know, plus papers, we don't have, you know, the opportunity to review all of the different, you know, submissions. So if you have questions or you know, would like to bounce off, you know, the ideas or what you're thinking, again, I think I would go ahead and that would be what Patrick would be available for, but we don't review each of the submissions and give feedback.
Again, if you do have additional questions or need help, you can email Patrick Merkel at speakerprograms@oaug.org. So our next question is, could you, Karen, explain the new white paper rule one more time, just to ensure everyone understands that?
Go off mute, Karen.
Either or. Karen?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. If you're an associate class member, then the rules haven't changed at all. If you are submitting as a user class, i.e. your company has implemented the applications and you are using them to run your business, then as you create your PowerPoint slides, down at the bottom, of course, is always the notes section for notes, you know, speaker notes. And if your slide is just a picture, then what we ask you to do is put some bullet points down in the speaker notes, which would actually be the 2 or 3 points you're going to make about that picture to begin with. This is the stuff that if you were writing paper, you would put that slide in the paper and said, this slide explains point A, B, C, D. And so what we're asking you is to just put as bullet points what those 4 points that you want to, or 3 or 4, however many that you're trying to get across. Why did you put that picture in a slide presentation? We're still asking that you check for spelling, et cetera, et cetera. But then when you submit your presentation, instead of just PDFing the PowerPoint slides, choose when you PDF it to PDF the slides with the notes, and the speaker notes will count as your paper, and you won't have to write a formal white paper. And Kaberi, is there a clearer way to say that?
Yeah, I think you pretty much, you know, covered it. I mean,
So an associate, I think the other thing is an associate member means a consulting firm, right? So the associate user designation, like Karen said, you're a user company if you implement and use Oracle products. An associate member would be in a consulting,
or a partner, or someone who's exhibiting. If you're exhibiting in the exhibit hall, you're an associate.
Yeah.
Correct. Thank you, Karen and Alyssa, for explaining.
Thank you. For those that, we've had a few questions in regard to the wish list. The wish list can actually be found under the collaborate.org website, which I will try to pull up here for everyone. Are you able to see my screen? So what we'll do is we'll go to the, all right, are you able to see the Collaborate 16 website?
Yes.
You see it.
Okay. So if you hover over the Present tab, you will see the Presentation Topic Wish List. So it's under the collaborate.oaug.org website, under the Presentation Topic Wish List. So we'll go ahead and click on it so people can see. You can download this as a PDF as well, but it does have all of the different tracks available for you to submit in, and with an explanation, and all of the bullet points, all of the wish list and topics that we're looking for are listed in the bullet points. So thank you for those that have submitted that. All right, so our next question is, I don't have confirmation from management that I'll be able to attend, but I would like to submit a topic. If my presentation is selected, but it turns out I cannot attend, will that cause a problem for the committee?
You do have an opportunity to be able to accept once your presentation, you get a notification, and part of the process of submitting your paper is actually to accept that slot. And so it's at that point that we need you to go ahead and say, yes, I'll be able to go forward and present. But I would say at this point to go ahead, I know that, plans haven't been made yet, by companies and things like that, maybe in terms of budget, purposes. But please go ahead and submit, because also, if your paper is selected, that is a much stronger business case for coming to collaborate. So I wouldn't let that stop you from going ahead and submitting.
Thank you,
don't forget that speakers primary speakers who have papers accepted at Collaborate are given a full conference pass. And so if you do submit a paper and you are accepted and we give you a full conference pass, then you would be responsible for your travel costs only. And again, as Lisa alluded to, that would just strengthen your business case to be able to attend.
Thank you, Melissa. I just want to add one thing. I will highly recommend each and everyone to submit paper at this point without thinking whether they get accepted or not. But as soon as you get accepted, you have to make sure that you are compliant, and then at that point, the sooner you can let us know that whether you have the management approval for your travel or not is highly appreciated. We do have people who we do keep in the wait list for these kind of situations where people did get accepted and for some reason either they left the company or their management didn't allow for the travel, even though they don't have to pay for the conference registration. The sooner you let us know is the best, and we appreciate that, because then we can give another speaker a chance who was otherwise waitlisted.
Wonderful. Thanks for your answers to that question. Again, for those attendees that are on, if you do have questions, you can type them into the Q&A box in your control panel, or you can raise your hand and I will unmute you. Any additional questions? While folks are typing their questions, again, if you are interested in viewing the wish list, you can see on our screen on the collaborate.oaug website under the Present tab, the Presentation Topic Wish List. All right, it looks like we do have another question. I am not an OAUG member, just a user. Is that a problem for submission?
Why do I hear crickets? No, that's not a problem.
It's not a problem. You can submit.
Exactly.
But we would encourage your company to consider joining simply because of all the other benefits to your company from past presentations, from being able to go to our e-learning presentations. If your company is going to send, I believe it's either 3 or 4 people to the conference, the discount pays for itself. So we would encourage your company to join regardless, simply because it's a good deal and you get a lot of benefits.
Wonderful.
Karen, thanks for supporting our membership cause. We're all in this together, right?
Yep.
All right, let's see. So another question that has come in. Out of roughly 1,200 papers, how many are expected to be selected for 2016?
I don't think we have the total number yet because we don't have our room allocations, but somewhere in the 4 to 450 generally. Lisa or Kaberi, do you?
Yep,
No,
I think I was going to add, basically it's roughly 25 to 30% of the submission based on the last few years.
Wonderful. All right, our next question is, does having presented at a regional OAUG help increase chances of presenting at Collaborate 16?
Because the names and companies are not, put on the voting mechanism, we don't, again, have any facility for making determinations. We do a blind choose of the presentations, so that doesn't make any difference.
However, I would say that if you had a topic that was of interest to a regional group, a lot of times there's a lot of synergy between what you're presenting at regional groups and what we're looking for at Collaborate. Your topic may be something that's very timely. And I do tend to see, we participate or present, my company does at about 30 trade shows a year. And I do tend to see that once a paper is accepted at one conference, it more than likely will be accepted at a second or even third conference. There seems to be a lot of overlap because topics, get hot.
Correct.
And we'll add to that, if it's a paper you presented 2 years ago and it was a 12.1 paper, see if something changed in 12.2 if you're using 12.2 and update the paper. Chances are it's still of interest to the people, but it's got to have update information.
And not everybody has heard that information before, right? If it was a very popular topic or in a earlier Collaborate, not everybody that attended that Collaborate had the opportunity to hear it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your answer to that question. Let's see. The next one is, when I click on 3-paper presentation application and log in, my presentation for Collaborate 15 is displayed. Is that normal? Will my submission for Collaborate be accepted from Collaborate 15 paper database? I think the first part of that, your Collaborate 15 information should not be displayed. If you want to reach out to Patrick Merkel at speakerprograms.org or speakerprograms@oaug.org, he can help you with that and clarify. The second part is, will my submission for Collaborate 16 be accepted from 2015 paper database? Unfortunately, not, as the 2015 paper database is for archived purposes for people to view and have access to those presentations. So you would need to submit for the 2016 using the actual call for papers presentation page. So again, if you have questions, you can email Patrick Merkel at speakerprograms@oeg.org, and he's happy to help. So the next question is, if I have several topics, is there someone I can talk to that can help me focus on the right articles? Again, Patrick Merkel with the OAUG staff is more than happy to help answer those questions and put you in touch with the right people that would help. So again, it's Patrick Merkel at speakerprograms@oaug.org. All right. So any additional questions, you can raise your hand or you can type them into the Q&A box. All right, so the next one is character limitation for abstract is 520 characters. Could we go beyond that? Unfortunately not at this time, as Melissa had mentioned that viewing over 1,200 submissions, we do try to limit during the voting process. We will work with you to ensure that your abstract after the event or after the submission, we'll work with you and get all of the details that we need should your presentation be accepted. But 520 characters is the limit at this time for the review and the submission process.
And I would make an additional.
Lisa, you're going to say the same thing, so go right ahead.
Okay. I would say, from my perspective, when I'm looking at the submissions, being able to concisely communicate what your presentation is about, that's a strength of a presenter. And so, I think that that's a good barometer of the presentation itself.
And also, if you make a concise abstract and grabs people's attention, then you can add in the 5 objectives some really specific stuff that maybe you didn't say in the abstract of 5 major points you're going to cover in your paper, but you don't clutter up the abstract with it. So, Lisa pointed out earlier the use of the objectives. So your abstract is, ta-da, 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 and in the objectives, I will cover this point, this point, this point, this point. So if you get someone's attention in the abstract, they'll read the objectives.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Karen. And you can give, so it's really not 520 characters, right? It's 520 plus all of the characters you get for the objectives. And pay as much attention to the objectives as you do the abstract, because a lot of times if you submit multiple times and it's just a copy from one to the next to the next to the next, again, that doesn't show any maturity of building out the presentation topic itself, right? So and
encourage you to write all this stuff out in Word.
Yes.
Write your abstracts in Word. Write your objectives in Word. One, Word allows you to do the word count, which is really cool. Check your grammar. Have Word help you check your spelling, your grammar. Get it to look right in Word. Then you can just cut and paste.
Wonderful. Thank you for that answer. So we still have a few minutes left, so we'll have a couple more questions here. I was planning on putting my idea on YouTube as a training session. Is there any recommendation if I should not go ahead with it before any decision is taken on my abstract?
My personal opinion, I would go ahead and do it because all of us here that are on this call, on this panel, have presented multiple topics multiple times. We have presentations that are on OAU regional websites, main OAU websites, multiple places. And again, not everybody's going to see what you have there. And it's all about education, and the more we can educate the users, the better. So, you know, it doesn't have to be a topic that you've never presented before or that's not somewhere else out in the, you know, in the internet or the, you know, some other database.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Again, if you do have questions, you can type them into the Q&A box in your control panel or raise your hand, and I will unmute you. We do have some time for a couple additional questions.
While we are waiting on a question, I just want to add what Elisa just mentioned. Even if somebody does on YouTube, just a reminder, which was brought up earlier, that the name and the company name is not associated with the title when the voting process happens. So nobody can find out who actually submitted when they're voting. So even if you have YouTube, you know, any other social media where you presented or did a 5-minute, you know, video or something, there is no way to correlate that with your paper submission at the time of voting.
Wonderful. Thanks for that addition, Kaberi. All right. From those attendees that are still on today, if you have additional questions, please go ahead and type them into the Q&A box. All right. It doesn't look like we have any additional questions at this time. Again, if you do have questions after this presentation or you need any help, feel free to reach out to Patrick Merkel at the OAUG. His email is speakerprograms@oaug.org, and he will be happy to help and assist you. But thanks to all of our panelists, Melissa, Kaberi, Elisa, and Karen, for your time. And we'll go ahead and conclude this session. But everyone, thank you for joining, and good luck with your submission. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.